Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. There is speculation that the Warriors will bring Klay Thompson back in a trade deal with the Dallas Mavericks. Klay Thompson isn't playing well, but alongside Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler, he could help Thompson recover his high-level game and his prowess as a great three-point shooter. Some players aren't as productive during the latter stages of their respective careers. That seems to be the case for a 35-year-old four-time NBA champion Dallas Mavericks guard, as he's currently moving in the wrong direction with the Luka Doncic-led Western Conference organization. As a result, Blue Man Hoops' Peter O'Keefe floated the idea of the future Hall of Famer reuniting with the franchise that drafted him, the Golden State Warriors, in an attempt to change the narrative surrounding his NBA status. There's no doubt that another team could certainly utilize Klay Thompson far more productively than what the Mavericks currently are, O'Keefe wrote last Monday. It just remains to be seen whether Dallas believes things will be different once Irving eventually returns from injury, or whether they're actually willing to consider trading the veteran sharpshooter in the meantime. Perhaps a reunion between Thompson and the Warriors could be on the cards at some stage, but on his current deal, it seems unlikely that the franchise would trade for one of their greatest ever players. Thompson will always be a Warriors legend, no matter how the remainder of his career pans out. Thompson, along with Stephen Curry and Draymond Green, helped the Dubs not only prove that they could compete in the vaunted Western Conference but also get over the hump following an early playoff exit in 2014. They went on to win 4 titles. After the 2023-24 campaign, though, it was clear the Warriors needed to move on from the gifted long-range shooter, as he was no longer the same player who helped the organization build a dynamic dynasty in the 2010s. Thompson is currently on pace to endure the worst statistical season of his remarkable career, as he's averaging 8.7 points per game on 33.3% field goal shooting and 29.4% three-point shooting. Would the Washington product's productivity improve with a return to his first NBA home? There's no reason to rule out the possibility. Warriors fans must come to brutal Stephen Curry realization after horror losses. Steph acknowledges his own poor performances. The Golden State were flying at 4-1 and gaining plaudits across the league for their early season form, but back-to-back horror losses to the Milwaukee Bucks and Indiana Pacers has put a major dent in what was growing optimism. Usually fans are lamenting the lack of support for Stephen Curry after disappointing defeats, but on this occasion we must realize that these losses have come squarely on the 2x MVP who has been well below his best in the past week. Stephen Curry is a major reason behind a pair of embarrassing losses. Curry did have 27 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists against the Bucks on Thursday, yet also shot just 8 of 19 from the floor, 42.9%, had 5 unforgivable turnovers and was a -6 in a 120-110 loss despite the absence of opposing star Giannis Antetokounmpo. Saturday was even worse for Curry, who had 24 points but took 23 shots to get there, having gone 4 of 16, 25%, from three-point range in the 5-point loss. He also had another 5 turnovers, uncharacteristically missed a free throw, and was a -21 in 29 minutes, easily his worst of the season. The Warriors led 101-92 when Curry and Draymond Green returned midway through the fourth quarter against the Pacers, only to crumble down the stretch and fall to a 114-109 defeat. I've got to be better, just being more decisive. More aggressive. Even not to shoot, but to playmake and get everybody organized, Curry said following the late-game meltdown against the Pacers. Warriors aren't going to win many or any games when Curry is -21. Tim Kawakami, at Tim Kawakami, November 2, 2025. To make matters worse for Curry, the opposing point guards absolutely torched Golden State over the past 2 games. Former Warrior Ryan Rollins had 32 points, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists to lead the Bucks to victory, before the relatively unknown Quentin Jackson had 25 points and 10 assists on Saturday for the Pacers. This isn't to say that Curry deserves sole responsibility for what's happened over the last 3 days, but the Warriors do take at least one, if not both games if the 11x All-Star simply plays somewhere near his best. Is this a sign that Curry is slowing down? No. It's easy to forget that he took over a game against the Denver Nuggets last Thursday to finish with 42 points in a thrilling overtime victory, before going for 35 points the next night despite a loss to the Portland Trail Blazers. Regardless, the Warriors are going to need far more from Curry after a week, 4 games, in which he averaged just 21.5 points on 32.6% three-point shooting and committed 3.3 turnovers per game. Steve Kerr slaps Warriors with harsh take after Pacers loss. One letdown loss on the road can be talked away as a fluke. 2 of them in a row, and it starts to become a problem. The Golden State Warriors dropped their second game in a row against the previously winless Indiana Pacers in a narrow 114-109 loss on the road. It was a game in which the Dubs' lethargy and visible lack of focus allowed the Pacers to hang tight. Even when Golden State built a double-digit lead late in the fourth, turnovers and failure to execute allowed Indiana to steal one on the back end of a back-to-back. The Pacers' Quentin Jackson barbecued the Warriors' defense for 25 points, 12 of which came in the fourth quarter. Throw in Aaron Nesmith's blistering 31 points and the ease with which Pascal Siakam collected 27 points, and the Warriors' apparent defense struggles become much more glaring. After the game, Dubs head coach Steve Kerr expressed his frustration with the way Golden State handled the short road trip. "It feels like we just gave away 2 games, Kerr said, via ESPN's Anthony Slater. "If we are locked in, and focused, and playing the way we know we can play, we should have won them. We have to find a way to be sharper and to be better. There's always tough nights during the season. This should not have been one of them. We had the day off yesterday, we didn't shoot around today, we had plenty of rest." The Warriors have had a brutal schedule from a rest standpoint to open the season, with 7 games in the last 12 days. But as Kerr said, that doesn't excuse the losses. 16 team turnovers aren't because of fatigue. Disconnected defensive rotations aren't because of fatigue. An inability to get up for a hungry Pacers team isn't because of fatigue. The Warriors' schedule only gets harder. Losses like these matter, even early in the season. Kerr talked about how playoff standings the past few seasons for the Dubs have been decided by 1 or 2 games. 1 or 2 games are the difference between the dreaded play-in tournament and a favorable playoff seed. "It's the frustration of not being able to capture that momentum we had, to sustain the start we had," Curry said. "I know we can get it back, long way to go. Everyone's talked about how tough the schedule is and all this and that. But these are 2 games that we really should have won, and wanted to have to show for our start. But hopefully it lights a fire under all of us to get back on the horse and figure out how we can win a very difficult stretch." Jonathan Kuminga wants to be coached hard by Steve Kerr. "That's another thing I told Steve, if it's not my night, tell me. I won't get mad. I'll be a good teammate, as I've always been," Kuminga told Kawakami. Kuminga may just be 23 years old, but that sort of maturity displays a wisdom far beyond his years. The fact that he wants his coach to be that straight up with him and tell him when he just doesn't have it on a given night shows that they have established a trust and honesty with each other that is absolutely key. In years past, Kerr has clearly not always had trust in Kuminga. The raw talent and ability was never in question, but the consistency to bring it on a nightly basis and how best to use Kuminga with the rest of the team were things Kerr struggled with. For the time being, it seems the team has cracked the formula, which is why Kuminga should be in the starting lineup going forward. He is playing good, consistent basketball and has earned the starting role, even though he knows it's far from a given he can't continue his consistent production. "I'm not sitting here thinking that I'm going to keep those minutes. I've got to go out there and earn those minutes," Kuminga said. Again, this sort of statement shows that Kuminga understands nothing is a given. He knows he has to continue to prove he can be the consistent presence on the floor that the Warriors need. Nothing is going to be handed to him, and if he struggles, Golden State have other options on the bench that could step up when called upon. Not many people would have seen this coming over the summer when acrimonious contract talks seemed to suggest that a split was coming between the Warriors and Kuminga. Instead, he has been embraced by his teammates and is playing some of his best basketball. We will see if this can be sustained for the rest of the season, But things are off to a great start, and it all seems to stem from the open and honest communication Kerr and Kuminga have with one another. Young Warriors player digs himself a deeper hole with latest outlandish comments. He really does like to be bold. No one will ever accuse young Warriors player Brandon Podziemski of being too humble. The 22-year-old always speaks his mind, and his latest comments will dig him an even deeper hole. In a recent feature on Podziemski in The Athletic, he said that if he had stuck with baseball he could have been a white version of Los Angeles Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani. Brandon Podziemski makes yet another bold comment about his skills. "I think I could be the white Shohei. I think I could do both. Maybe not to the degree he can do it, but I think I could for sure do both. Pitch, play the field, hit, all those things," Podziemski said. The article focused on Podziemski and his connection with his father over the game of baseball. Podziemski played baseball when he was younger and clearly had some skill. When he threw out the first pitch for the Giants at Oracle Park, he hit 86 miles per hour on the radar gun, which is not bad at all for the shooting guard. Maybe if Podziemski had stuck with baseball he would have had some success, but it's a little bit silly for him to seriously compare himself to Shohei Ohtani, who is the greatest talent baseball has seen in quite some time. This comes on the heels of comments Podziemski made prior to the NBA season in which he said that he wants to be better than legendary point guard Stephen Curry. One has to love the confidence, but with each outlandish comparison he makes, he is only opening himself up to more criticism, and his teammate Draymond Green even seemed to think the young player went too far in his remarks. To be sure, Podziemski is a promising young player. After a slow start this season, he has turned things around and has looked much better in his last few games. He is averaging 12.3 points per game in the early season, shooting 47.8% from the floor and 39.4% from three-point range. It is easy to imagine Podziemski being a key part of a future Warriors team when Curry and Green have retired or are on different teams. However, it is important that the young player stays within himself and does not feel like he has to live up to Curry's legacy, because that is simply going to be impossible. Podziemski is seemingly digging himself a bigger hole with each of his comments, so maybe he should keep any bold comparisons to himself going forward. Warriors 6'3" guard expected to have big problem when healthy, per writer. Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors got out to a hot start to begin this season. Since their 4-1 start, they have lost 2 consecutive games to some banged-up teams. One of the main issues for these losses was their perimeter defense. The Warriors as a unit seem to be a good defensive team, but individually, the aging roster and its players may not have the skills to be impactful on the perimeter. Luckily, DeAnthony Melton should be back from an ACL injury before January, and he will improve this issue drastically. Although Melton is a great defender, Blue Man Hoops Peter O'Keefe suggests it may not be all sunshine and rainbows when he comes back. The lack of perimeter defense was again on display for the Warriors during Saturday's disastrous loss to the Indiana Pacers, suggesting they could have an unhealthy reliance on Melton upon his long-anticipated return, O'Keefe said Sunday. Melton has earned a reputation as a capable perimeter defender when healthy. While the team's current point-of-attack issues presents a strong opportunity for the 27-year-old when he does return, it's also unfair to expect him to be the anecdote at least straight away. O'Keefe believes that the Warriors may expect too much from the scrappy guard before he even returns. Melton tore his ACL in November of last season and recently started increasing his on-court workouts. It was announced that he will be re-evaluated in 3 weeks to get a better idea of when he will be able to return. Melton began his season with the Warriors last year before they traded him to the Brooklyn Nets. On October 1, 2025, they re-signed him to a 2-year deal because they liked what he brought to the team. Hopefully, the recovering guard isn't handed too much pressure when he comes back, as that may make things even worse for his injury and the rest of the team.